Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to do a deep dive into a company that's really tackling a global challenge, e-waste.
Hmm.
We're looking at Eco Recycling Ltd, and we've got their financials and their investor presentation all from the second quarter of their fiscal year 2025.
Right.
So we're hoping to get some insights, go beyond the headlines, and figure out why all this stuff matters.
Sounds good.
So to kick things off, what's so interesting about this company?
Well, they're really pioneers in this whole e-waste management scene.
Okay.
I mean, they were founded back in 2005,
Right.
and they were India's first and actually leading e-waste management company.
Wow, first.
Yeah, and here's the kicker. They're publicly listed on the Bombay Stock Exchange.
Really?
You don't see that every day in this industry.
That's kind of breaking the mold
Yeah, exactly.
for a waste management company.
It is.
So they're not shying away from transparency, and they've woven sustainability into their mission. Their mission statement actually says, to propagate and serve the cause of environment protection through technology and efficient management of resources.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I like it.
They're not just talking the talk. They're definitely walking the walk.
Absolutely.
Putting their money where their mouth is, you could say.
So how are they doing that?
Well, look at this. They just expanded their Mumbai facility,
Okay.
added a huge 18,000 MTPA of capacity.
Wow.
They're serious about growth,
Yeah.
and they're clearly confident in the future of e-waste management.
Yeah, that's a big statement.
It is.
All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty, the financials.
Okay.
Their total income for Q2, it jumped by almost 38% compared to last year.
Impressive.
And for the first half of the fiscal year, it's up by over 50%. That's not just growth, that's like a meteoric rise.
It really is, yeah. Makes sense when you consider the bigger picture.
What do you mean?
The global e-waste market is booming. It's huge.
Whoa, okay.
Experts predict it'll hit, get this, $167 billion by 2030. So Eco Recycling is riding a massive wave, and they're doing it in style.
So they're not just growing and they're profitable.
Exactly, they are.
Their EBITDA and PAT margins, they're consistently strong. So that means they're keeping costs down and making money.
Yep, exactly. And it's not a fluke.
What do you mean?
This reflects a bigger trend. Companies are realizing that responsible e-waste disposal, it's not just good for the planet,
Right.
it's good for business.
Yeah, it makes sense.
They want to showcase their sustainability efforts, and Eco Recycling is perfectly positioned to help them do that.
It's like they're at the intersection of a global challenge and a massive business opportunity.
Yeah, I like that.
And speaking of opportunities, their investor presentation highlights some interesting initiatives and partnerships.
Oh, yeah.
One that caught my eye was their Recycling on Wheels Smarter program.
Okay, tell me about it.
They're literally bringing e-waste collection to the doorstep of businesses and individuals. Talk about convenient and impactful.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
It's not just a feel-good project either. They got some serious funding from the Technology Development Board.
Oh, wow.
So even the government sees the potential. It's a game changer for making e-waste collection more accessible and efficient.
It really is.
And hold on, there's more. They've partnered with CMET.
Okay.
It's under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology,
Right.
and they're implementing cutting-edge Li-ion battery recycling technology.
Wow.
This is huge.
Why?
It allows them to recover valuable elements, cobalt, nickel, manganese, right here in India. They don't have to rely on exports.
So win-win on multiple levels.
Right.
It aligns with India's push for self-reliance and domestic manufacturing, especially in the electric vehicle sector. That's booming.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And by recovering these elements domestically, they're contributing to a more circular economy.
So they're not just recycling, they're creating a closed loop. Valuable materials are reused and repurposed. It's like turning trash into treasure. And speaking of strategic partnerships, they've also teamed up with Terra, one of the world's largest networks of certified e-scrap and ITAD providers. Talk about expanding their reach and expertise.
It's a smart move.
Yeah.
Opens up a ton of possibilities.
Yeah.
By tapping into Terra's global network, they gain access to knowledge, best practices, potential markets. They're positioning themselves as a global leader in e-waste management, not just a local player.
So Eco Recycling is playing a big part in tackling this e-waste challenge, but I mean, the e-waste problem itself is huge.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking millions of tons of discarded electronics every year. It's a lot.
It is. It's a stark reminder of just how much we consume and how fast technology changes. But, there's a good side to it, too.
What's that?
As people become more aware of this e-waste crisis, the demand for solutions grows too.
That makes sense.
And that's where Eco Recycling really shines. They're not just riding the wave, they're leading the charge.
So let's zoom back in on Eco Recycling Ltd. We've talked about their big picture stuff, but how does all of this translate into actual numbers? Let's look at those financials. I always find these things kind of intimidating.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they can be. Think of it like we're on a treasure hunt, searching for golden nuggets in these reports.
I like that. So what treasures have we found so far?
Well, their total income for Q2 hit 13.90 crore.
Okay.
To put that in perspective, that's a 37.9% jump from last year.
So they're making a lot more money.
Yeah, and that's a good sign.
It is. What's driving that?
Well, their core business, e-waste recycling, is doing really well. They brought in 12.87 crore from that alone, a big increase. More and more businesses and people are choosing eco-recycling.
They're becoming the go-to solution, which is great, not just for them, but for the planet.
Exactly. And their other income streams are contributing too, though we see a little dip there. But overall, a story of growth and a company on the right track.
Okay, but are they actually making money from all this growth?
Here's where eco-recycling really stands out. Their EBITDA margin is a whopping 73.67%.
Wait, 73%? That's incredible. What's their secret?
A few things: efficient operations, keeping costs down, and a high demand in their market. But it also shows their strategy is working. Remember those initiatives. They're good for business A&D, the environment.
They've cracked the code. Doing well by doing good. Their profit after tax is impressive too. 8.20 crore for Q2. A healthy margin of 58.99%. So they're turning a good profit.
Absolutely. And their half-yearly performance is even better. They hit to turn 27.35 crore in total income for the first half of FY25. That's a 51.86% increase.
Over 50% growth in 6 months. That's amazing. And it looks like their profits are keeping pace.
They are. EBITDA and PAT margins stayed strong, around 75% and 60%. That shows their business model is sustainable.
Okay, so they're making money, but what else can we see from these results?
Well, their net sales for the first half reached 24.28 crore. That's more than double last year. Their core business is clearly driving this.
They're really capitalizing on that growing e-waste market. But they're shaping it too with their innovative approach.
Totally. Their profit after tax came in at 16.35 crore with an EPS of 8.47.
EPS?
Earnings per share. It tells us how much profit each share gets.
So higher EPS means more profit, right? Good for investors.
Exactly. And theirs has grown significantly. Investors are definitely noticing.
Looking back over a few years, what trends do we see?
Their consolidated statements show consistent growth. Total income has been rising steadily, reaching 35.27 crore in FY24. They have a successful strategy, and they're in a good position.
So they're not a one-hit wonder. What about their profitability? Has that been consistent?
EBITDA margin, though it's gone up and down a little, has a positive trend. It hit 67.20% in FY24. That's a clear sign of how well their operations are run.
And their PAT margin has also been increasing, up to 51.66% in FY24. So more revenue ND, they're turning more of it into profit. That's a good combo.
It is. Their balance sheets show a healthy situation, too. Total assets were over 80 crore in FY24.
Okay, strong assets, strong financials. But what about debt? Are they borrowing a lot to grow?
Here's where it gets interesting. Their debt-to-equity ratio is super low, around 0.02 in FY24. They're mostly financing their growth with their own earnings.
Wow, so they're not racking up huge debts?
Nope. It shows they're being responsible, not taking big risks.
That's impressive.
It is. And their interest coverage ratio is strong, 45 times in FY24.
I'm no expert, but that sounds good.
It is. It means they can easily cover their interest payments. More proof of their financial strength.
So we have a company with a vision, a great track record, and strong financials. Sounds like they're doing well.
They are. And don't forget, they're in a market with huge potential for growth. Eco Recycling Ltd. is a company to keep an eye on.
Definitely one for the watch list. Before we move on, I want to mention something from their investor presentation. They had this record-breaking e-waste collection event on Global Recycling Day.
Oh, right.
They had 5 teams out with vehicles, and they collected 10,914 kilograms of e-waste in one day.
Over 10 tons. Shows their commitment to action and raising awareness about e-waste.
Yeah, and they engaged with over 1,000 businesses, shops, restaurants, individuals.
That's a great community outreach.
It was a huge effort, good for the environment and for Eco Recycling's image. They're solidifying their leadership in the e-waste world.
Definitely.
So we've looked at their financials, and they're thriving. But let's switch gears a bit. What about the overall e-waste picture? What global trends and challenges are shaping this industry?
Hmm, good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. We've been focused on eco-recycling success, but that's just one part of this whole e-waste thing. It's a big global challenge, right? What happens to all that e-waste if it's not recycled properly?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of it, unfortunately, ends up in landfills.
Mhm.
And that's where the real problems start.
How so?
You got all these hazardous materials and electronics, and they can leach into the ground, the water. It's not good. It's a real environmental risk.
Right, and it's not just the environment, right?
No, you're absolutely right. There's a human cost, too.
Yeah.
In a lot of places, especially in developing countries, e-waste is handled by people working in really unsafe conditions.
Oh, I see.
They're exposed to these toxic substances without any real protection. It's a tough situation with all sorts of consequences.
So it sounds pretty grim, but is there any hope? Any good news?
Yeah, I think there is.
Yeah.
The good news is that people are becoming more aware of this e-waste problem,
Okay.
and that's driving the demand for better solutions, more responsible practices.
So companies like Eco Recycling are in a good position.
They are, definitely. They're showing that e-waste isn't just garbage, it's a valuable resource.
Yeah. Turning a negative into a positive, they're a good example of how businesses can do well by doing good.
Exactly. Leading the way, you could say.
Yeah.
And as more companies get on board with this, we're going to see more innovation, more investment in e-waste management. It's a market with a lot of potential.
So it's a whole new industry, basically.
Wow. It is. And it goes beyond just recycling. It's about rethinking how we design, manufacture, and manage electronics from start to finish. That's where this whole circular economy idea comes in.
I've heard that term, but I'm not sure I fully understand it.
It's about minimizing waste, using resources for as long as possible, closing the loop, so to speak.
So for e-waste, it means making products that last longer, are easier to repair and recycle.
That's the idea. It takes a change in how we think about things, and everyone needs to work together, manufacturers, consumers, governments, and of course, the recyclers.
So we've looked at eco-recycling's success, their innovations, and this big e-waste issue. What's the main takeaway?
I think eco-recycling shows us that companies can do well by tackling global challenges. They're not just making money, they're making a difference, turning a problem into an opportunity.
Yeah, it's pretty inspiring to see. They're proving that sustainability and profit aren't mutually exclusive.
Absolutely. A real beacon of hope, especially when it comes to dealing with this e-waste crisis.
And here's something to think about. Eco-recycling is focused on India right now. What would it take for them to go global, and what challenges would they face?
Good question. It's complicated, for sure, but it's something worth considering.
It is. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of e-waste and Eco Recycling Ltd.
It's been a pleasure.
If you want to learn more, check out their website. It's ecorico.com. And until next time, stay curious.